So for those of you wondering why I'm doing this one now instead of at the end, it's because the OVA doesn't really have a major impact on the story. It'd feel kind of anticlimactic to end with this one as opposed to seating arrangement, so I might as well do it now. As requested by Daniel Newville and JMG Productions, here is Waterslide, also known as the show's OVA. It's based on the manga chapters 57, 58 and 59, and you can see my notes and outtakes for this video for free on my website. Links in the description. But before I get into the analysis, I just need to say the fan sub I used and the fan sub that I'd argue most people used was done by a YouTube and Reddit user named Legoff, and not the absolute cretin who stole their subtitles and passed them off as their own. If you guys haven't seen some of the Takagi-san content that Legoff has on their channel, I can't recommend it enough. Now, on with the analysis. The story begins with Mano and Takagi leaving the changing room at the water park. This water park will be the location for this episode. Mano looks uncomfortable being in such a crowded place wearing a swimsuit. She asks Takagi if she looks weird. Takagi takes a look and tells Mano that she looks really cute. This gives Mano a huge shot of confidence and they go to meet up with Nishikata and Nakai. When they get there, Nishikata realizes what many viewers would have noticed already, that Takagi is wearing the same swimsuit that she tried on in, well, swimsuit. Nishikata finds himself staring at her, and when Takagi notices this, he looks away feeling quite embarrassed. Takagi laughs at this, but when asked by Nakai what she's laughing at, she says it's nothing. I feel like this is pretty important, but I'll get into why near the end of the video. Mano tells Nakai that she's sorry for taking so long, clearly hoping to get a compliment from her boyfriend. Nakai says that it's okay before grabbing Nishikata to go down the water slides. Again, I want to get into what this means for Nakai's character, but now's not the best time to get into it. What it is a good time to get into is Mano's reaction, which is to call out, "At least compliment me on my bathing suit," and falling to the ground in despair. Takagi, in an attempt to cheer a friend up, asks if Nakai was blushing. Mano very quickly states that he wasn't. Mano then confides in Takagi that Nakai would rather hang out with other boys than her, which is possibly part of her biggest problem in this episode. If she feels like she's always second best compared to the other boys Nakai hangs out with, going to the pool and wearing a bathing suit could have been a chance for her to get his attention, and to see that not even that will do is likely very distressing for her. Please don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Nakai is a bad person for wanting to hang out with his friends instead of his girlfriend, but again, I will get into that later. Mano then gets up with a smile on her face and says that her and Takagi should hang out. Takagi agrees and they go off to play beach volleyball. The pool they play volleyball in just so happens to be near the water slides though, and Mano spends most of her time watching them to look out for Nakai, and eventually gets hit in the head with a beach ball thrown by Takagi. After apologizing for spacing out, with a clearly forced smile, Takagi looks at her friend with a concerned expression and suggests that they take a break, whereas in the manga it's Mano who asks if they can take a break. I honestly prefer the way the anime does this, but again, I will get into why at the end of the video. Either way, they end up in a pool right by the water slides. Mano is looking towards the water slides until Takagi asks if she is looking for Nakai. Mano says that she is. Takagi then apologizes for getting in the way of their date, but Mano insists that she feels much more comfortable with Takagi around, that being around Nakai alone can make her nervous. But she also states that she hopes he hasn't forgotten the promise they both made, the promise to go down the water slide together. Takagi suggests that Mano just ask Nakai to go down the slide with her, but Mano states that she doesn't want to remind him if he has forgotten, that she'd rather just wait for him to remember. She then goes on to say that she's way too nervous to actually ask him, and Takagi says, "So that's the real reason," and Mano admits it. Takagi then comments on how lovey-dovey going down the water slide together is. Mano looks at her confused and asks Takagi if she doesn't know about the rumour surrounding these water slides. When Takagi asks what she means, Mano whispers to her that if a couple go down the slide together, they will fall in love forever. Interestingly, in the manga, we don't learn this. Whatever Mano says to Takagi here is a secret. In either case, Takagi says that Mano and Nakai just have to go down the slide together, and Mano says she can charm him if she has that as an excuse. Honestly, I don't really get what she meant here, but in the manga she talks about being able to sit in his lap, so I assume it's something similar. Either way, Takagi's response is to realize, so that's the real reason. Takagi then comes up with a plan to make Nakai take her down the water slide. If she can get Nishikata away, then Nakai will come looking for Mano. Mano is worried that he has forgotten their promise, but Takagi assures her that he wouldn't have, and then tells Mano "gamba," which roughly translates to "do your best." Takagi then gets out of the pool and goes to find Nishikata. Mano calls out to her saying thanks and that Takagi is really doing her a massive favour. Takagi says that this is what friends are for and adds that this is also an excuse for her to be alone with Nishikata, to which Mano responds, "Oh, so that's the real reason." We then cut to Yukari, Mina and Sane, and I hope you will forgive me, but these guys and their story isn't really all that relevant to everything else that's going on, so I'm going to be skimming through these parts pretty quickly so that I can get back to talking about the story between Nishikata, Takagi, Mano and Nakai. Basically, Yukari complains that there aren't any rentable floaties as she cannot swim. She resigns herself to just watching Mina and Sane swim before Mina decides she's going to teach Yukari how to swim. She starts a strict classroom-like swimming class in which she abuses her power. And their first segment ends with Yukari thinking she sees Takagi, but being branded a liar by the others when they cannot see her. We then see Takagi walking around the water park looking for Nishikata and wondering how she is going to tease him. We then quickly cut to Nishikata going down one of the water slides and having an absolute ball. He gets to the bottom where Nakai is waiting for him, ready to tell Nishikata what a great ride it was. Nishikata tells Nakai that he thinks he's getting the hang of controlling the speed on the water slide, speeding up and slowing down. Nakai warns him that thinking too much on a water slide can produce negative results. This conversation is not present in the manga, but it's a welcome addition as it somewhat foreshadows what is about to happen. As they walk up the stairs to the slides, Nishikata thinks about how great it is that he can just hang out with Nakai, because seeing Takagi in a swimsuit has him flustered, and she will tease him if she figures that out. He then notices that Nakai doesn't seem to be fazed by any of that. We as the audience know that he's uncomfortable enough around swimsuits to complain about being in a store for them, but I'll get into that in another analysis. Nakai then states that he's glad Nishikata is there and that it's easier to be at the water park with another guy. Nishikata thinks for a moment that Nakai could be uncomfortable around swimsuits until he mentions that if it were just Mano and himself, he wouldn't be able to go down the water slides over and over. And Nishikata figures out that he isn't uncomfortable with that stuff after all and even admires him for it. Nakai brings up bungee jumping and talks about how he'd like to try it out sometime, suggesting that Nakai here is something of a thrill seeker. Nishikata starts to realize that this may not be right. He asks Nakai if it's really okay that he is there getting in the way of his and Mano's date. Nakai says it's fine, although he did promise to go down the water slide with her at some point. Nishikata asks again if it's really okay, but Nakai insists that it's completely fine. What's interesting here is that Nishikata has trouble talking about love, even when neither he or Takagi are the subject of the conversation. I mentioned in my umbrella analysis that we don't know how Nishikata handles topics like love and relationships when around people who aren't Takagi, but this OVA confirms that he is always awkward about it, even with his friends. Remember when I said that I'd get back to Nakai? Well, here it is. Nakai is so dense his head alone probably sets off alarms in elevators. Again, no disrespect to the dude, I like him as a character, but my god mate, get a clue! It really makes me understand why Mano is so upset. First he doesn't compliment her on her swimsuit, and then delays fulfilling a promise to her because he'd rather go down the slides over and over. I mean, come on man, just a little more consideration for your girlfriend, yeah? They get to the top of the waterslide tower and Nakai gets ready to go down. Nishikata thinks to himself that if Nakai says it's fine, then it must be fine. But then he catches the eye of Mano in a pool below and she is glaring at him big time. He realizes there and then that this is not okay and he needs to do something. In the manga, he tries to get Nakai's attention before he goes down, but in the anime, Nakai is already down the slide. Nishikata follows him and begins to come up with a plan to get away from Nakai so that he and Mano can be alone. He goes through several options from going to the bathroom to faking an injury, but doesn't come up with anything as he wipes out at the bottom of the slide. Nakai asks if he is okay and Nishikata complains that he got water in his nose. Nakai asks if he was thinking about Takagi. Again, from my OP analysis, Nakai treats the potential romance between these two fairly bluntly. Nishikata of course denies this outright and for once is actually telling the truth. He then gets an idea. A good way to get away from Nakai is to tell him that he wants to spend time with Takagi, but then realizes the implications such an excuse would have and decides not to use it. Until they're out of the pool and he has an idea. He tells Nakai that he has come up with a great plan to get back at Takagi and that he's going to go try it out. Nakai tells Nishikata that if he wants to spend time with Takagi, he just has to say so. Nishikata says that he's got it all wrong before walking off and Nakai has a little laugh. We then cut back to Yukari, Mina and Sane. Mina and Sane are enjoying the water while Yukari stands at the edge of the pool looking fed up. She asks what happened to the swimming lessons but gets no decent response. When asked why she's so afraid of the water, Yukari said she isn't scared but that she just can't float. Sane takes this to mean that she is too heavy and Mina interjects that she knows Yukari's weight. and is just about to say it out loud when Yukari cuts her off with a scream. Nishikata can hear this scream but quickly goes back to looking for Takagi. It's now that he realizes that he needs to get Takagi away from Mano, and there's no way of doing that without embarrassing himself. As he has one of his Nishikata trademark reactions, Takagi finds him. Takagi asks him why he is on his own. Nishikata asks Takagi the same question. Takagi admits that she was looking for him. Nishikata isn't sure how to respond to this until Takagi clarifies that she wanted to tease him. Takagi asks if Nishikata was looking for her. He says no, of course, but that he just thought that Nakai and Mano needed some time alone. Takagi says that means that he was looking for her, but Nishikata brushes it off as an interpretation. Takagi points out that Nishikata can't keep walking around by himself because if Nakai or Mano sees him, they will ask what he is doing. Nishikata realizes that she is right and invites Takagi to get juice. Takagi looks thrilled by this invitation, which is potentially a callback to, well, invitation. The anime is missing a plot point that happens in the manga where Takagi asks Nishikata if he would like to go down the waterslide together, and Nishikata says no. There are two reasons that this might be in the manga but not in the anime. Reason one is that the manga reader still doesn't know about the rumour surrounding the waterslides, but knows that there is one. It's also the end of chapter 58. They get juice and Takagi wonders how Mano and Nakai are doing. Nishikata brings up that they had made a promise to go down the waterslide together. Takagi seems absolutely delighted that Nakai had actually remembered that promise, and tells Nishikata that Mano was talking about it quite a bit, before taking a sip of a drink. Nishikata finds himself staring at Takagi again, just like he did in Cold, Room, Portrait, and earlier in this very OVA. Takagi once again notices and comes up with a plan. She tells Nishikata that they should go spy on Nakai and Mano. They see Nakai and Mano walking towards the slides. Nishikata thinks this is enough, but Takagi insists that they make sure. So they follow them up the stairs to the top of the waterslide tower. Takagi notices that Nishikata is looking away. She asks why he's doing this and he says he just likes the view over there. We as the audience know that he just can't stand to look at Takagi in a swimsuit or watch Nakai and Mano act like a couple. Takagi is about to call him out on this when she hears Nakai and Mano getting ready to go down the slide. They have a quick chat not present in the manga where they discuss who goes first before going down. Takagi looks on delighted that they finally got to go down the slide together and says it looks like a lot of fun. She then tells Nishikata that they should go down the slide themselves. Separately, of course. She then says that if Nishikata would like to go down together, that's fine too, but Nishikata says that Takagi can go first, and thinks about how ineffective he is at scheming when Takagi is wearing a bathing suit. Takagi gets into the slide, but just before she leaves, she tells Nishikata that if he can't catch her, he loses, and then begins to slide down. Nishikata thinks to himself that if she thinks he's too embarrassed to chase her, she has another thing coming. With a cry of determination, he dives into the slide. We cut to Nakai and Mano on the ground as they find Kimura and Takeo, an interaction which is absent from the manga. Kimura says that they were heading towards the slides, and Nakai says that they should go together. It looks like Kimura likes this idea until he sees Mano looking upset. He tells Nakai that he wants to go eat instead and drags Takeo along with him, seemingly against his will. Mano looks happy that she gets Nakai to herself a little longer. We then cut back to the inside of the slide where Nishikata is using Nakai's advice, clearing his mind and focusing on speed, similar to his tactic in Marathon. Takagi looks back and sees Nishikata gaining on her and comments on how fast he is going. Nishikata claims that Takagi has let her guard down and that victory is his, but then Takagi tells him about the rumour surrounding the slide, that if a couple go down together, they will fall in love. This is the first time hearing the rumour in the manga, but in the anime we've already known about this for a while. Nishikata, who is horrified at the thought of falling in love with Takagi, or at least that's what he tells himself, spreads his limbs and does everything he can to slow down. Takagi makes it to the end of the slide, and a short while later Nishikata wipes out at the bottom yet again, creating a large splash that gets Takagi. When he returns to the surface, Takagi informs him that she has won, and Nishikata can't believe that Takagi had tricked him. They leave the pool and see Mano and Nakai. While Nishikata complains to Nakai about getting water in his nose again, Mano pulls Takagi aside and tells her that she should have gone down with Nishikata. Takagi tells Mano that it's just the force of habit. Nakai tells Nishikata that they should go down the slide some more. As they walk away, Nishikata looks back at Takagi for a moment. Takagi and Mano, who both notice this, look at each other and have a little laugh. Now that Mano has had a time with Nakai, she suggests that they do something that I'm sure she wanted to do all along. Float along in the lazy river. We cut to Yukari, Mina and Sane leaving the water park. They see Kimura and Takeo on their way out. Kimura is eating like he said he was going to, and Takeo is being a bit of a creeper. Well, but at least there are some consequences for him. Yukari and Sane move on, but Mina stays behind to watch them for a little bit, and I honestly cannot tell you why. She then catches up and she assures Yukari that even if she wears glasses and can't swim, they are still good friends. And Sane adds that it also doesn't matter that she's heavy, which of course causes Yukari to snap at her. We finally get to the end of the OVA with Mano and Nakai getting on his bike to ride home. Takagi and Mano wave to each other as they ride off. As they go to get a bus, Takagi tells Nishikata that he was blushing all day today, and Nishikata denies this. Takagi then says that they should ride the waterslide next time. Separately, of course. Nishikata says that he will be going down first next time, and Takagi tells him that she will do her best to catch up to him, before running around him and boarding the bus home. In the manga, this is where the chapter ends, but the anime, as usual, has a little extra for us. Once the credits are done, we cut to the bus Takagi and Nishikata are riding home on. Nishikata is dozed off and is resting his head on Takagi's shoulder, and Takagi is clearly flustered by this intimate moment. You know, you'd think I'd pick a shorter story after last week's grind, but I guess I'm just a masochist who can't sleep at night without being totally mentally drained. I remember when Invitation was aired and people started discussing the girl that Takagi was walking with in the hallway. We see so little of Takagi and Nishikata's lives outside of each other's interactions that people were glad to see Takagi hanging out with other friends. This OVA is basically that in a nutshell. Half the story isn't even about Takagi and Nishikata, it's about Mano and Nakai. It's interesting to see that Takagi is just as intuitive with others as she is with Nishikata. That is why I'm glad she is the one who suggested the break from beach volleyball instead of Mano. The fact that Takagi suggested it tells us that she knew something wasn't right and wanted to figure out what it was. It's also made clear from the very beginning that Takagi's friends have a lot of respect for her and trust her a great deal. Mano goes from feeling uncomfortable to feeling pumped up and ready to go on nothing but Takagi's word. It's also interesting that with Mano, Takagi doesn't mind her knowing the feelings that she has for Nishikata. She doesn't deny it outright like Nishikata does with Nakai. Last note on Takagi, I love that her teasing Nishikata is clearly a private pleasure. At the start of the episode when Nakai asks what she is laughing about, she could have easily embarrassed him by telling the group that he was staring at her. But she doesn't, because this isn't something to entertain others with. It's a private moment between the two of them hidden in plain sight. I also like that despite feeling awkward about love and relationships, Nishikata still figures out he needs to give Nakai and Mano some time alone. And this is the first time we've seen him plotting for something that wasn't a plan to get back at Takagi, even if a plan to get back at Takagi ended up being the answer he was looking for. Despite speeding through the B plot of this episode, I do like that it features every named character except for Tanabe-sensei, which would have been absolutely hilarious. I mean, like, imagine if he was sitting by the pool eating a sandwich or something the first time Nishikata stacked his slide and he got water on Tanabe's sandwich. Nishikata! And of course, kudos to the animators for that post-credit scene. Some people have claimed that the OVA was worth watching just for those few still images. It's another case of Takagi showing a sign of vulnerability which is so rare in this show. And that was it for Waterslide. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to be on holiday as of tomorrow, but while I'm away, I'm going to be working on something special for my 100 subscriber video, so make sure you stick around for that. Check out the films I make on my main channel, and I will see you next time.